Pawanji's life has been very enriching since then, and he had the privilege of interacting with some of the greatest minds of the 20th century, like Sri Dharampal ji, Sri Nagaraj Sharma, Ravindra Sharma Guruji, and the Venerable Samdong Rinpoche. All these people have made a very deep impact on the way he perceives and thinks today. At present, Pawanji is mainly involved in writing, sharing his views through small retreats and dialogues, mentoring individuals in schools, and initiating research projects. He believes we are a wounded civilization that needs healing. In today's session, we will be having a talk of about 45 to 50 minutes, followed by question and answers. I may add a personal note here that I have the privilege of knowing Pawanji, I think for the past 3 years, and we have had several interactions. And I would like to say, when I met Pawanji and interacted with him, I was very much impressed by 3 factors. The first factor is that I find him as a very genuine person. So he has that aura of genuinity and the passion for what he says and what he does. The second G is, I think, where his interaction with such great minds have made him very grounded in reality. And to add to these 2 good qualities or factors which I have observed, he's a very genial person also. So he is very, it's easy to talk to him. It's easy to interact with him. He has that genial personality and that warmth in exchange. And I may tell you that it's not even been a fortnight since we met. We had a retreat at Varanasi, which was facilitated by Pawanji. And I'm sure that he will be able to provide us some very significant insights into today's topic, which is on education, which has been very close to his heart, especially school education, in which he has been engaged for, I think, more than 34 or 35 years. So without much further delay, I request Pawanji to take over and give us the privilege of his knowledge and study and insights into education, how he perceives it in the modern times. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Krishnapani ji. Thank you, Praveen and Reshmi, for inviting me over here. This, about 15 days ago, Reshmi approached me and asked me to give a talk. And I was wondering what I will be speaking about. And then I said that let me speak about things which are normally not spoken. There is a story in our fable. I believe it must be there across span, पूरे देश में होगी ये कहानी, हर लोक कथा में होगी, which is, उसका title है राजा नंगा है. So there's this king who's obsessed with new clothes, and people are fed up. So some person comes and he weaves something, which is, he says, you won't be able to see, but the entire world will be able to see, etc., etc. And one child calls out that Raja is Nanga. So I think that is our state. When we talk of education, mostly I find people talking in education as if it is in a separate category, as if it is in a silo, as if usko alag पूरा समाज और देश और हमारा जीवन अलग चलता है और education अलग चलती है. This is not the case. Everything is interconnected. or education more so, education is part of life. It doesn't stop with your school and your college. And what happens in the school and college is also impacted by the entire society. Where do you get your teachers from? Where do you get your syllabus from? The curriculum, syllabus, teaching, ये सारा कुछ इसका connection तो बाहर की दुनिया से है ही. Now I want to touch upon a few things, and I think Krishnapani ji made it easier for me. Long back, V.S. Naipaul, Vidyasagar Naipaul, वैसे Trinidad के रहने वाले, लेकिन he was, मतलब, I think in the 60s he got the Nobel Prize for literature. He called India a wounded civilization. And when I read that, I started feeling that it is so true. We are a wounded civilization, but we don't want to talk about it. Why do we not want to talk about it? Because if we talk about it, we'll have to look within ourselves. We too are wounded, and we are busy hiding our education. Our environment is busy telling us to hide this wound and not to expose it. So we try to camouflage this wound by various means, by becoming westernized, by taking on to English language, by adopting a certain accent, by doing all these things which camouflage that wound. Some of us are successful to an extent. I wouldn't say 100%, but to an extent to basically give the impression that they have now come out of that deep wound, but it is not so. So I find when I started doing this work in the villages, my first exposure, I thought I was ignorant, completely ignorant. I thought I was doing something noble, I was doing something good, I was doing something to the villagers, which they lacked. I was providing them education, which they did not have till that time. I thought education in a very, very, very narrow sense at that time. And when we started working a few months down the line, when we started interacting with the village women, they started saying, ये आपकी शिक्षा हमारे बच्चों को बर्बाद कर रही है. They also said, ये न घर के रहते हैं, न घाट के रहते हैं. Now, this needs to be understood. What does that mean? Why did they say that? And I think that the village women who were simple and yet still rooted with their things, with their culture and with their civilization, they had the courage to say this openly. But we in the cities who think we are educated and who think we are successful now, we don't even see it that way. We see that this education has made us successful. This is how we see. This is how the women were seeing that ये तो education हमारे बच्चों को बर्बाद कर रही है. We need to understand why did they see this. We can't just reject them that they don't understand, therefore they said this. Now, when I look deep into it, I realize that the problem is that the children, after only a few years of going to school, they start developing an attitude in which they start perceiving themselves, their own language, their way of life, their lifestyle, their way of doing things, their occupation, their vocation, everything which is their own, their village, their community, everything as backward. And anything coming from the westernized world or the urban world, I'm making huge generalizations, I know, but this is true. Anything coming from the westernized or urban world, be it the language, be it the lifestyle, be it the way we wear our clothes, be it the way we behave, all that is superior, all that is developed, all that is the way to go. Long back, Mahatma Gandhi said this, that this English education, इसने हमारे घर और हमारे स्कूल के बीच का फासला बढ़ा दिया है. घर में एक भाषा, स्कूल में दूसरी भाषा. घर में एक तरह से बैठना उठना, स्कूल में दूसरी तरह से बैठना उठना. घर में आप पालथी मार के क्रॉस लेगेड जमीन पे बैठते हैं या कोई और चीज पे बैठते हैं. When you go to the school, you sit on a bench with your legs hanging. In every single cultural attribute, the school becomes different from your home. Now, of course, in urban cities, it's not the difference is not so much, but still it is there, especially if your grandparents are staying with the child. If it's a single nuclear family, maybe it is not so much. But if it's a 3-generation family, grandparents, father, mother, and children staying, you will see that there is still a difference, that this issue that I'm raising, you will see a glimpse of it. India is perhaps the only country, and I am saying the only country with full responsibility, because both Bangladesh and Pakistan also became independent. Bangladesh was Pakistan that time. They became independent about the same time that we became, right? 15th August 1947. But despite that, this problem is so unique in India, and I'm going to point it out because I'm talking about the wound, that in India, to belong to the elite class, to which most of us belong here, to belong to the elite class, you have to be alienated from your own cultural roots, your own traditional roots, your civilizational roots. You have to be, that is a compulsion if you want to belong to the elite class. I'm really sticking my neck out, but this is the conclusion that I've reached after many years, that India requires a complete alienation from your roots, number one, and it forces you to 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 imbibe certain value systems which are not your own. Why? Because they are fashionable. So fashion is not just in clothes or in the way you look. Fashion is also of ideas and opinions. This has become so much so. So if you want to be an elite in India, you have to drop your own and you have to adopt something else. That adoption, whether you do it willingly or it just happens unconsciously, that's a different matter. But by and large, the elite in India has to be completely cut off from your roots and completely alienated from your own ordinary people. Now, this kind of a psyche, where you are cut off from your roots and you are busy imitating something which is not your own to belong to that elite class or to be successful, what does it do at the individual level? I think it creates some kind of a tendency for hypocrisy, a tendency to be inauthentic, and something that actually eats you up because you are trying to hide your real identity and you are projecting something which is not your real identity. It may have become part of your personality now. That persona that you project may have become part of your personality now because of generations of this kind of a thing, yet it never becomes real. It still is a persona. And that is the wound. Now let us try and throw another dimension to it. When I tried to understand this, I realized that, first we were under the Islamic rule for long periods. Now, during the Islamic rule, I'm sure that I imagine, I'm not a historian, and I don't believe historians very much. I go by because our narrative has been distorted. We all know that. I mean, anyone with a little bit of intelligence would be able to see that our history has been has been written to give a certain message to us. But I'm not getting into that. What I'm saying is that during the Islamic rule, when we have seen our temples being destroyed, our people having forcibly to convert to another religion, I imagine this must have had some impact, a great impact on the psyche of people. People must have become scared. There's no doubt about it. I am told in Rajasthan, from which I originally belong 3 generations ago, in Rajasthan, there are towns after towns. Towns after town, if you go into Shekhawati region, you will find towns after towns or small places where you won't find a single public temple. All temples are within the Havelis of the Banyas or the Rajputs. Why? Because Rajputs belonged to the warrior class and they were close to the rulers, and so were the Banyas, because the Banyas were not touched, because otherwise the whole establishment will come to a stop. They needed the Banyas for transaction. So their Havelis were not touched. So all temples from the public spaces, they came inside the homes of these Havelis. This should tell us that there's something terrible must have happened at that time. So large-scale conversion, those who got converted, whom we call largely they are Pasmanda Muslims today, they, as well as the Hindus who got left behind, they must have suffered some kind of a terror, a fear that I hope this doesn't happen to me, or what do I do now? So this kind of when you live in that kind of environment, it does percolate down generations. It doesn't stay with only one generation. It percolates down. And what does it do? Our common sense will say, if scared person will try to be manipulative. A scared person will be hypocritical. He will say things to your face without meaning them. He'll try to be clever, petty cleverness. He'll try to be, get by he'll become more selfish because he cannot now think of the other. It's a matter of survival. So all these traits that we see today in the Indians, we are hypocritical. We have a certain cowardice in us because we don't easily say no. We don't take up cudgels. We try and avoid them. We don't try and resist if it really comes to that. Pettiness, yes. Cleverness, yes. All that is there. I attribute it largely to this kind of atmosphere in which we lived for centuries. And this passes on. So this is, in psychological terms, it is called transgenerational trauma. I think this is one part. The second part is when the British came here. It was even worse because the terror did not stop. We don't know that history. That history has been obliterated. 1857, the kind of violence which happened in India has not been written about. You can only get glimpses of it by reading certain novels, certain descriptions, certain memoirs. But you don't get it in a book form that this is what happened. And even if you get, they're not very popular. 1857 gives us an idea of the kind of violence which was perpetuated. So the violence continued. And because of that, the fear in the people continued. But on top of it, like they say, Sone mein suhaga ya karela or neem chada, they also made us feel ashamed for who we were. This was not, the Islamic period, this did not happen. In fact, the Hindus never felt inferior to the Islamic rulers. But here, during the British rule, we somehow started feeling inferior to the Britishers. And because of this inferiority, in every aspect of life, we started feeling inferior. And I can see the reasons. The advent of Industrial Revolution, suddenly the electric bulb has come into your home, or the railway has come, and all kinds of technological innovations have come, and they must have mesmerized people. My God, what has this happened? And you must have attributed this to the British mind and the superiority of the British, and therefore along with that, everything which was our own became backward and superstition and all that. In fact, in 1827, William Bentinck, he was not Viceroy then, he was Governor General of India. Calcutta was the capital. He wrote a letter to the Secretary of State in England, in which he says, now there is nothing to worry, meaning we are here to stay now. We don't have to worry. Now there is nothing to worry because the educated Indian has started imitating our ways. He has stopped giving alms to mendicants and sadhus. And with the money thus saved, he is spending that money on either becoming like us or in entertaining us. Now, William Bentinck understood the psyche. We have yet to understand. We have yet to understand this. We are still enamored by the West. Whatever we may criticize the West, but we are still enamored by the West. We believe, by and large, we believe the Western media unquestioningly. By and large, we believe what their institutions, Harvard and MIT, say unquestioningly. We don't apply our minds anymore. By and large, a Nobel laureate says something and we just slap it up, as if we don't have any scholars in our own country, as if we did not have anything of our own, as if our minds we have given over, to them, as we just soak it up. So this is in very short, I'm trying to explain the wound which is there, which we are not trying to address. We are still looking at education as something out there, and that has nothing to do with me. It is to do with me. It is to do with this wound that I myself am carrying. It is disturbing. It is going to cause you pain, but you have to see if you want to come out of it, because it is festering inside. It is not making you healthy. This problem is not being addressed by anyone in our education. I'm not talking of exceptions here and there, but by and large, it is not being addressed. Now I have come to it's as a sequel to this. What has happened in the world that we are living today? I call it the world of modernity, which has by and large come from American, European kind of civilization. This modernity in which we are living, in which we talk of modern democracy, we talk of the modern idea of freedom, we talk of the modern idea of rights, we talk of the modern idea of equality. These are the four main things, right, that we talk about. Everyone talks about as if they are gods. The new gods are modern democracy. The new god is freedom. The new god is right. The new god is equality. Everyone talks about it. Everyone wants equality. Everyone wants rights. Everyone wants freedom without even defining what it is. So I have made a survey. I'm telling you, I have spoken to about 2,000, 3,000 young people just to ascertain what is their idea of freedom. And what I get out of it is the idea of an average educated person about freedom is to be able to live as I wish, to be able to do what I wish. If I am a LGBT, I have every right to be like that. That's my freedom. If I want to sing and dance, yes. If I want to go around naked, no problem. All this is, I'm of course exaggerating maybe a little bit, but this is true. The idea of freedom in the general mass, educated mass, is the ability, the desire to live as one wishes. And they dovetail it with the right. This is my right. The only thing which can come and stop me from that, my father cannot do it, my mother cannot do it, my grandparents cannot do it, my friends cannot do it, my husband, my wife cannot do it. Only thing that can do it is the law of the land, against which I can also protest. That is my right. This is what the idea of freedom is. Now, if you think and you deconstruct this idea, you will find this is completely bogus. It is not tenable in reality. I and you, if we have to live together, we have to live in harmony. If both of us want to live with as per my wish, the wishes are going to clash with one another. There is no way that the entire humanity can live according to their wishes and they can also live harmoniously. It is just not possible. So in our civilization, the idea was to control your senses. In today's idea of freedom is there's no control over senses. Absolutely not. That comes in the way of freedom. It's a complete contrast between the way Indian civilization has seen this and the way modernity sees this. In our civilizational understanding, we don't talk of freedom. In fact, there is no translation of word freedom. If there is, I would say that would be swachandata. But there's another word, a beautiful word called swatantrata. The swatantrata is not freedom. Swatantrata is to live according to the existential design, to live according to the existential system, both of the self, my body, and the entire existence. There is a system. You plant a seed, it becomes a sapling, the sapling becomes a tree. This is a system. You cannot change that order. My body has a system. If I eat according to, in alignment with that system, I remain healthy. If I eat in disalignment with that system, the way my body is designed, I become sick. I can do as I please. I can say that I'm free to do as I please. Yes, you are free to do as you please, but that doesn't mean that you will ensure your health. So Swatantrata comes out of understanding the system as it prevails, the system of yourself, the system of your body, and the system in the entire existence, in the environment around. If these things are understood, which is the objective of education, if you understand that, and then you'll have the responsibility to live according to that, then the outcome is Swatantrata. Swatantrata is an outcome of understanding and living according to that understanding. Freedom does not require any understanding. Freedom is entirely based on your whims and fancies. So these are two completely different paradigms. But today, we are not addressing this. In our education or in our public discourse, we are not addressing this. We have taken freedom to be the new God, new value. Look at same way equality. Look at modern democracy. In modern democracy, we are saying every 5 years, we will select a new government. Okay. Now, you have already corrupted the minds of the educated classes, where they have started feeling that their entire well-being and their success and their goodness and their happiness lies in material advancement. Only and only material advancement. So if I have a scooter, I need a car. If I have a car, I need something very expensive car or a plane or whatever. So there is no stopping me. A material possession is the yardstick of success in my mind. That is how I see it. That is what education has done to us in the last 200 years. Now, with that kind of electrolyte, you want to select someone. Who will that electorate select? They will select the person or that institute which is promising them maximum goods, maximum free largesse. So you see, there's a contradiction in this thing. Your education has already corrupted the minds, and that mind is now going out to vote every 5 years. What does the person who's standing he is almost forced to do certain things to get their votes. It's a vicious circle. Now, how do we get out of this vicious circle? I don't know if you ask me, but I do know that we can address certain things because the problem I see, now I come to the problem as I see is in our drishti. It's not in our thinking, it's in our drishti. And I'm using the word drishti because I can't find a word for it in English. I don't find perception or perspective the right word. Drishti is something, I'll give you an example. I am going on a road and I see there is a snake there and I perceive that snake as a rope. Now, there is no logic here. There is no rationality here. I am perceiving that snake as a rope. It can also be vice versa. I'm going on the road. There is a rope and I perceive it as a snake. Now, this is beyond logic, beyond rationality. Once I perceive that, whatever it is, if I perceive the rope as a snake, the following actions, the thinking after that will follow that perception. My thinking can say, now let me kill it, let me get something to kill it, or let me run, or let me shout, or whatever. All that happens post my perception, my drishti. So I say that today rationality is a myth, because rationality is based on our perception. If we perceive the rope as a snake, rationality comes after that. I'll now say two things and try and just I request your attention. I'm trying to make a distinction here between knowing and assuming. Manna or janna. I find that an ordinary Indian goes to Haridwar or goes to Rishikesh or goes to Varanasi and takes a dip in the Ganga. An ordinary, uneducated, who we call uneducated. That Indian is going and taking a dip in the Ganga or doing a Shraddh ceremony with full tanmayata. And if you ask him, why are you doing this? What will be the answer of an ordinary person? Oh, I believe in it. My father used to do it. My grandfather used to do it. I believe that this is to be done and we get this benefit out of it. He will use the word believe. This is what I want to draw your attention to. That he has no problem in saying we believe. But we, the educated, when we go to a doctor and the doctor says you go to this pathological lab and get your tests done. We get those tests done. We don't understand the report other than what is normal and what is beyond normal, numbers, but we don't understand what it actually means. We think we understand because our BP level is more than 140, so we have high BP. We believe it, but our mind says we know it. We go to the doctor prescribes medicines, and we start taking those medicines, and we under the belief that I am doing a scientific act, that I am performing a rational act. We have this perception that we know what we are doing. This person who's taking a dip in the Ganga, he doesn't have that arrogance. He knows that he's believing. We are also believing, but we are assuming that we know. Now, out of the two, which mind is more prone to being manipulated? Just think about it. I am actually believing, but I am under the mistaken assumption that I know. Now, it's very difficult for you to do anything with me because I already have this misconception embedded in me that I know. That person doesn't have that. And this just expand it. Isn't it happening on a mass scale? I'll give you a few examples just following from it. Look, I give you two words. One on one side is not knowing or knowledge, and the other side is information. Information and knowledge are completely different things. Information has to be remembered. Information is transient. In the sense, who's the Prime Minister of the country? You will say Narendra Modi. This is information. This is not knowledge, right? Because tomorrow he may not be, yesterday he wasn't. So, Narendra Modi is the Prime Minister of the country is information. It is not knowledge. But 2 plus 2 is 4 is knowledge. It is not information. Once you know it. When you know it, then no power in the world can make you believe that it's not 2 plus 2, 4, it is 2 plus 2 is 5, or in America it will change, or 10 years ago it was different, or 20 years hence it will be different. Knowledge is Sanatan. Information is transitory. Yet, now look at what is happening. You go out and pick up a book of general knowledge in the market and give me one line over there, which is knowledge. Every single thing in that book is information.
Sure.
Yet we are calling information as knowledge, and we are serving it to our children. We are serving it to our young adults. And what happens to their mind? Doesn't their perception undergoes some kind of a distortion? drishti dosh. So they start perceiving the rope as snake. They start perceiving information as knowledge. Now, when you start perceiving information as knowledge, then any information coming from a person like Amartya Sen or New York Times or Guardian or BBC, you lap it up as knowledge without even seeing whether it, first of all, that information is correct or not. Secondly, it's only a piece of information and it is not knowledge. Now, let me give you another example. Opinions. Opinions are touted as truth. Opinion is an opinion. Opinion, not truth.
True.
Truth is complete. Truth is that which is sanatan, which is eternal, which is perennial, which does not change. Anything which is changing does not lie in the domain of truth, even if it is correct. So I am making a distinction here, an important distinction between truth and fact. Today, the temperature in Mussoorie is 22 degrees centigrade is a fact. If I say it is 30 degrees, it is a misinformation. If I say it is 22 degrees, it is correct, but still it is a fact. It may be true, but it is a fact. It is not truth. Now, all opinions are largely formed on either information or misinformation. Some of it may be based on truth. But yet, it cannot be put in the category of truth. But opinions are what we keep fighting about all the time. We are not making this distinction. Our children are not making this distinction. The teacher is not making this distinction. I can give you many pairs like this. Word and meaning. Word is in a language, right? Hindi word or an English word or a Kannada word or a Bengali word. But the meaning behind it is of a reality which is existential. Meaning is beyond language. It does not exist in language. It is beyond language. Word has to be in a language. Are we making this distinction between word and meaning? And if we are not, then which one are we prioritizing? I think we are prioritizing word all the time. So you go to these fancy seminars or you read these fancy books and you're impressed because the language is very good. What is the content? What is it behind that? So what I'm saying is, by and large, education today is making us an obedient citizen of modernity. And the proof of it, I will give the star proof of it is that our educated, rich youngsters who have a lot of attitude have started wearing torn jeans. In a country which always believed that wearing torn clothes was a disrespect to Lakshmi. A poor man also would hesitate to wear torn clothes, maybe a little dirty, but not torn. He would stitch it up and wear it. In that country, our youngsters are wearing torn jeans, buying at exorbitant prices. Just try to understand this phenomenon. Are we using our brains or is something else happening? These people are completely subject to manipulation by forces outside their control. Be it the world of advertising, be it the political class, be it the intellectual class, be it the media. They don't know that they have a brain of their own which they can use. They're not doing that. But they have a lot of arrogance and a lot of attitude. So what I am proposing to you is that these are the small, there are many other things, but I think I should finish now. The time is running. I want to leave you with this thought that let us look at the wound deep inside us, which makes us behave in a certain manner only to appear good or to only to appear that we are up with the times. And are we not completely alienated from our roots? Number one. If we are, what do we do about it? How do we go about it? How do we save our children? Number two, this illusion of modernity. This we have to do something about. And the process can begin at home and in the school by making this decision, by trying to see the rope for a rope and the snake for a snake. If we assume the rope to be a snake, and if I get fearful and you teach me that don't be scared, you have to be brave, that won't work. If you show me that, look, this is not a snake, it's actually a rope, my fear will disappear. I don't have to fight it. That is what we need to do now. I'll stop here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pawanji. I think I wouldn't be wrong in saying that the audience today, the participants today may like you to continue for some more time. You seem to have left us with some questions, but that's good. But maybe elaborating on a few more relevant topics would be helpful.
Okay.
And in the meantime, I request the participants to post their questions here so that we, after Pawanji ends his talk, we may take up the questions. But continue, Pawanji.
Yeah. So I will talk a little more about this illusion of modernity.
Yeah.
They have created this confusion. It has got created between the real and or the eternal and the transitory. I would call knowledge as eternal. I will call information as transitory. Now, what has happened in modernity, whether it has been done I think it has been done deliberately to an extent, that information has got imposed over knowledge. So in the ordinary educated mind, they are unable to make a distinction between knowledge and information. When they can't make this distinction, then what happens is they assume, without knowing that they are assuming, that information is knowledge. And once they assume that, information is not in their hands. Knowledge is in their hands. Once I understand 2 + 2 is 4, that becomes mine. No one else has an IPR on it. But as long as I am dependent on information, the information has to come from outside. So then I become subject to manipulation. This is what is happening. So this is one distinction. The other important distinction is between means and ends. Now look at it, for instance, money. Now money is a means, an important means, definitely, but it is still a means, however important it may be, but it is a means. And we cannot consume money directly. We have to do something with the money to be able to consume what we need or we want, right? But today, in the general educated mind, money is the end. Now, you will say money is very important. I'm not denying that. And I'm not going to get into that argument. Important or not important, it is still a means. It cannot be consumed. What you need to consume and what you need to consume, you have to buy with that money. India, this brings me to another thing that when I started looking at these things and when I started studying a little bit, and these various amazing people that I met in my life, and then I met my village people who I really owe it to them to get this journey started. I realized that our villages, there are two strengths that I can see. One is their family structure. So a large family automatically consumes less than smaller families. If one family disintegrates into 4 families, the 4 family, even if their life standard of life doesn't increase, the consumption is going to increase in those 4 families as compared to when they were living together. This has a society which was self-reliant into this job market. And again, education played a big role. So once you became educated, you were no longer fit for farming. You were no longer fit for doing what you were doing. You had to go out, and it also, you had to go out and seek a job. And also there was an aura around it that you are earning money. Now, India has been, there's a large chunk of our economy has been non-monetized economy. You grew your food, you ate your food, you had your cattle, you had your buffaloes, and you had your cows, and you were self-reliant to a large extent. Only the surplus you sent in the market and you got something out of it. So in the initial years, I'm not exaggerating, when I came here into Mussoorie in 89, around 93, 94, we realized that 1,000 rupees earning in our village is equivalent to about 15,000 rupees in Delhi. Because this guy who's earning 1,000 rupees in the village has his own home. He's not paying any rent. It belongs to him. He grows his own food. He has his own cows and buffaloes from which he gets milk and curd and ghee and butter, which in the city, first of all, he won't get everything. But if he wants all those things, he has to spend money. Here, he doesn't have to spend money. And there was a lot of give and take. I've seen marriages over here where we talk about this ostentatious marriages in the cities, but in our villages, which are small little hamlets, one village here is about 15 families. That's about all, which can at the most be 120 people altogether, or 150 at most. These over here, a marriage used to mean about 700, 800 people coming and staying for 3 to 5 days. This was the richness of this area. 5 to 7 days, 7 to 800 people coming, and it all went smoothly because everyone pitched in. Someone brought rice, someone brought wheat, someone brought ghee, someone brought this thing, that thing, everything. And it all happened smoothly. Now, I think we have to look at economics also in a different way, that India's strength lay in joint families. India's strength lay in non-monetized economy, which has been systematically destroyed over the years. And more so in our minds, we think we are becoming developed by going that way. So everyone is seeking employment. No one is thinking of becoming an entrepreneur. Where is this thought coming from? I am trying to sort of point out many, many things because they're all interconnected. You have to, if we just see education as something ABC and 1, 2, 3 and classroom and pedagogy, and even pedagogy, just something came to me. Let me just show you a glimpse of how things are going wrong, how our drishti dosh paida kahan se hota hai. When we teach a child, the sun rises from the east. This is how we teach it. This is the way we teach. Sun rises. First of all, the sun doesn't rise. We are moving and the sun appears to rise. Number 2, east is not exactly the same category of noun as the sun. Sun is an celestial body, an existential reality. East is not an existential reality, even though it is a noun. When we teach the child the sun rises from the east, what we are doing to the child is the child starts assuming that east and sun are exactly the same category, whereas they are not. East, an assumed name given to a particular direction for our convenience. You will say even sun has been a name given to us, given by us for convenience. True, but sun is an existential thing. East is not existential. So we are making these, when we do this, what is happening to the minds is what we need to see. The same thing happens. I'll give you another example. Our pedagogy, the general pedagogy in school is CAT, cat mane billi, right? This is how we teach. Whether we're teaching maths, we are teaching science, we are teaching anything, we are introducing something which is not known to the child. C is not known to the child, A is not, cat is not known. Last we say billi, which the child may or may not know. So we are going from the unknown and going to the known. The right way to do it is start with what the child already knows. The child knows that billi, that physical thing, object out there, the child knows. Point it out and then say, in Hindi we call it billi, in English we call it cat, and cat is written by these, spoken by these three sounds called C-A-T, and by these three figures called C-A-T. So we have to we are doing so, and this is all 200 years. It's not a very old thing. It's started with the British education in India. Before that, it was very different. You must read Dharampal's Beautiful Tree if you're really interested in education, how it was in India. You'll get a good idea. You may not get an idea of the pedagogy those days, but you will get an idea of curriculum. Mahabharata and Ramayana were taught in every school, and these schools were not run by the state, by the way, as today. They were run by the community, by the Samaj themselves. So it was a social system which was running those schools, unlike today, where it is a state-sponsored system which runs the schools. In those schools, they were completely self-reliant, and you will find there over what we were teaching, etc., etc. All this, there's a lot of myth going around that there was a lot of discrimination and only the Brahmins kids used to go to these schools and only boys used to go to the school. Please read those books, because in that book, it is not Dharampal who's writing this. These are data, these are documents collected by the Britishers initially in the late 18th century, early 19th century. They collected because they were told to document all that they saw. The British started distorting our history after 1830, especially after 1860. Before that, they were busy documenting what they saw. And this is the beauty of Dharampal's work, that he has reproduced those documents as it is from the British archives. If you see them, then you will realize what has happened to us. We don't even know our own past. Whether it is my individual past, which I'm trying to hide all the time, or my collective past, which I have assumed that there was nothing there. It is all discrimination. In those books, you will find that in a school, all kinds of jati children are coming. The Vaishyas are coming, the Shudras are coming, the Ati Shudras are coming, the Muslims are coming, boys are coming, and girls are coming. There are data about it, which is almost unbelievable. When I read it about 20, 25 years ago, I could not believe it. Because my own perception was, I was looking at that rope as a snake. I was trained to look at rope as a snake. I thought, no, there's nothing in India. There must have been some gurukuls where only the Brahmin boys used to go and read only the Vedas. It is not so. Those things were also there. But these things on a large scale, where what we call schools today, something like that was there, where Vyakaran was taught, where Ganit was taught, where many things were done. And there was a lot of diversity between one school and the other because they were localized. So my urge to you is kindly look into, connect the dots. Don't see things in isolation. We will never see the good picture as it is, unless we connect the dots, unless we raise doubts about what has been taught to us, what has been fed to us. And please pay attention.
Pavanji, your
That
voice is
everything was taught
frozen.
to me. It just opened certain doors for me. So, yeah. Krishna Parji, this is 8 o'clock. What?
Yeah. Thank you so much, Pawanji. We have some comments and some questions also.
Okay.
Dr. Vikramadityan says, excellent perspective on education. Thanks, Praveelji, for introducing the speaker, Pawanji, here. And Shrey Rawat also says, I really love the idea of Swatantra and how it is about living in alignment with the larger existential order. And he also has a question. He says, while being rooted in our context and community, is it possible or helpful to also stay connected globally to the wider Earth family, as in for our children to be locally rooted and globally connected? Would that be possible?
As I see it, being rooted is being connected with your roots, right? And your roots ultimately is Sanatan. What does Sanatan mean? Sanatan means truth, eternal truth, which is unchanging. If we really get connected with that, for instance, I gave some glimpses of it. If we really look at the end rather than the means, if we start focusing on the meaning rather than the words, if we start focusing on knowledge rather than these are not binaries, these are not either or, but I'm just talking of what should we give priority to. I'm not saying throw information out of the window. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying be careful and don't assume that information is knowledge. So give priority to knowledge and then use information as and when you require. So try and give priority to meaning. Meaning means you must be able to see that it is existential meaning, in the sense that if this meaning, what it means to me, let's say a word like love. We all use this word love. What do we mean by love? Is it some idea or is it a reality? We need to ask these questions. Is this idea of respect, of love, of trust just an idea, or is it something real? If it is something real, then that must be same for you and me and for everyone in this world. So let us try and find out what that is, which is the same for everyone. And believe you me, once you get that, sometimes you will get it. And when you get it, then you will know that it is not only for me, but when the other understands it, other sees it, he will see it exactly the same way as me. Just like when I understand 2 plus 2 is 4, and the other is not understanding that, but I don't have to convince him. I know that when he will know this, he will know it like this. It is as simple as that. So let us start seeing truth. And I think our roots are basically in the Sanatan. So there is no problem about global and all that. If the global today's global, I don't know what you will call global, but today's global is a What is that global? We need to understand what do we mean by this global. That global is saying leave what your vocation is and go out into the job market and become a servant. Don't stand on your own feet. And the illusion given is that when you earn a lot of money, you are standing on your feet. No, the money is only a means, so you are not standing on your feet. Tomorrow, if the value of money drops, your wealth is gone in a minute. Do we know all these things? So let's not live in a make-believe world, which this illusion has been created through modernity, and we are all living in this kind of a bubble. Let us start looking at the real. By real, I mean the Sanatan. So there is no difference between India. This is the beauty of Sanatan. Sanatan is global. And Sanatan is ours because it is rooted in our civilizational ethos. That is what our civilization is standing on. If it is today, of course, you don't see much of it, but that's the way it is.
I so agree with what you just said, Pavanji. I would like to share a little incident which happened last year when I went to Rishikesh. most of the participants in my class, I went there to learn yoga. They were mostly from US and Europe, and I am very much Indian. I feel that I'm very much connected to my roots. So when I was there, I never pretended anything. I was just there and I was doing things the way I do, and everybody appreciated me. And they said that, Ritika, we never met anybody who is so much rooted to their to their values and roots. And I was like, oh really, I even didn't know that. So they find it very amazing, and then they wanted to know more about Sanatan Dharma, and because we anyway studying psychology, yoga, and all those things. So, what you said is amazing. Sanatan is global, and I truly believe in it, because if we are connected with who we are, then people see us the way we are, not the illusion we create even for them. Like how you started in the beginning, the kind of the trauma the trauma we have noticed after the British era, we still have influence about English or about any language, being in that elite class thing and all those things. So I really love the way you said that Sanatan is global, and I have experienced it. So thank you for bringing that.
Pawanji,
Yeah.
there is a question by Gurmeet ji. I think you have addressed it, but the question was about what kind of education will actually heal this wound. I think you have elaborated on that already. But there is another interesting observation by Ketan Patel, and he is also asking that a few parents are running an organization which is rooted in ancient education, and they would like to have a conversation with you about this. I think I would like to mention to Ketan Patelji that there are two organizations in Bangalore which are already doing this work, with which Pawan Gupta ji is very closely associated. One school is called as the Udbhava school, which is also run by the parents and a few very enthusiastic and committed persons. And another is the Purna Pramati. Purna Pramati is another educational institution which is doing it. And certainly, I think Reshmi can post Pawanji's mobile number, and Ketan Patelji, you can contact Pawanji, and he'll be able to.
Also, my email can be given.
Yeah, email. Yeah, first contact him by email. That would be good, because you can express your views, and then Pawanji will be able to definitely help you in that respect.
Yeah. Good evening, all of you.
Yeah,
I have
Dr. Vikram.
one observation, and to say thanks to all of you for this wonderful event. And Pawanji, it was really nice to see the depth that you have gone and been blessed with. Some observations, like what we see regarding the status of Bharat is because of this age, the age of Kali, and already, in fact, left. So regarding education, what the saints have told us, this wound can be very quickly removed by consciousness-based education rather than brain-based. Now, as you said, it's all about information, and we are lacking knowledge. And knowledge, further, when we take it to its ultimate end, is realization, consciousness. And very soon, this initiative of people having an experiential education process, which gives the, experience of Brahman through meditation, will solve all the problem in one stroke. Because now we are, as Bhagavad Gita tells, one is better than the next, like, from senses. Senses are better than inanimate objects. Mind is better than senses. And then better than mind is intellect. But more better than intellect is definitely the consciousness, self-realization. So that experience, when we are going to institute in a larger scale in all the school level and also to adults, I'm sure what you're talking about, the missing knowledge and further higher aspects of education will unfold. So also one thing, what you told about this younger generation wearing torn jeans, it's really a thing that I also often used to observe and wonder about how this could occur. But when we see from a perspective of continuity of our births, probably whatever karmas we did in the past, that we have to experience it at a cost. Like if you have donated in past birth torn clothes, actually it's mentioned even in the Islamic perspective, we have to give the best to the others. And in fact, one of the Prophet's daughters, she gave her wedding dress to the servant because she didn't have a dress to wear, the servant. That kind of donations or gifts was encouraged. Probably this is a small observation because it's related to your thought. We were also wondering. So these things, is clearly mentioned in Vedas. And one more thing I want to just show you, very interesting thing in the Upanishad, Chandogya Upanishad. You see, every occurrence is explainable by our Vedic knowledge. One such is during the past Corona. The Corona times was absolutely karmic. Suddenly, from out of the blue, we observed everybody locked up in the house. And this was favoring inward travel, self-realization, because too much we were, out of coherence. And one so beautifully mentioned the solution in Vedas. The vital force residing in the nose is afflicted by the devilish sin. It is in one of the verses of Chandogya Upanishad. And here in Corona, we saw that we were poked in the nose. Actually, such a test, we never actually have used it much in our medical studies. But see how the nature is coming back in full vengeance and made what they say is nose is puffed up with pride. So this one Corona act, just demonstrated how nature is really efficient and trying to balance human, you can say, aberrations. So our present education system is one such repercussion of, or maybe a reflection of our past deeds. And it's wonderful to have thinkers like you, and we need to work together more. Thank you so much for this.
Thank you, Dr. Vikramadityan. Pawanji, for your information, Dr. Vikramadityan is a very close associate of Rtambhara, and he is a medical researcher. He is a doctor by profession, but he does a lot of research work connected to the ancient Indian systems of medicine, and collaborating with scientists and medical professionals all over the world. And I think he's a good resource person for us for deepening our understanding of the Sanatan connect between the Sanatana Dharma and the modern outlook.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Vikramaditya.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
So, any further questions, or maybe I thought it would be nice if I can very briefly summarize what Pawanji just said, because it's so, well, anyway, we will be sharing the recording of it. It's also important that some of the most important points stick in our mind. See, as Pawanji was mentioning, we consider these things only from a very superficial and intellectual way of understanding. That's not going to help us much. I think it's important that we, actually imbibe it and make it a part of ourselves to be very useful to the society, to bring these ideas and then act upon them. And it's sometimes what happens is what Pawanji says scares many people. I have seen that. They are shaken from their roots. In fact, they don't have much roots. And when these ideas are given, they don't have much to counter, but they feel disturbed by it. But that's a good thing. I think it is important that all of us get disturbed, because from that discontent and from that perception, action would flow. Now, because see, these are the terms like what he has used: democracy, freedom, rights, and equality. Everybody feels that they know the meaning of it, but unfortunately, most of us think that licentiousness is freedom. Doing whatever one feels like is freedom. Similarly, this equality, more appropriate terms are there in English, but we are not happy with it. See, for example, there is something called as complementarity and something called as equity. See, I have been arguing this vehemently. Unfortunately, the barriers that have been created both in our mind and in the society somehow inherently makes women to feel that they are somehow inferior, and they need to fight for their rights, fight for equality and all. But our perception from the Sanatana Dharma point of view is that women have always been seen as to be something superior to men in several respects. So talking about equality is something wrong. More important is the complementarity, how we complement each other, and get rid of this binary thinking or one against the other and two opposites. This thinking has to be somehow changed. And another important factor which Pawanji brought out is about language. In fact, now, as I said, we are also forced to use English, which is alien to us in so many respects. But that has become the lingua franca, or the common language for all of us to understand, especially in India, because there are so many states and so many languages and so on. But as Shrey Rawatji was mentioning, that one word, Swatantra, if you understand it rightly, it opens up several avenues for new kind of thinking. And, what happens is, another factor which comes to my mind is when Pawanji talked about freedom is having no control over the senses. But that has never been the case with Sanatana Dharma, because the fundamental virtues, which are called as sampatti, they call it as shat sampatti, and the first two are shama and dama, equanimity of mind and control of senses. These are being considered as the fundamental virtues. And the more a person is disciplined, the more freedom he enjoys to do better things, not to disturb the harmony and create problems for us. And I think two other points that come to my mind is how we see success. See, we don't understand that success and money are consequences. They are not goals. They are not something to be achieved. They are consequences of our action. As Pawanji has rightly put it, money is a means. And I would add to that saying that money is a consequence also. Some action you perform, as a consequence of that, you earn money. Earning money or achieving success cannot be goals. That's again a modern westernized perception, and they would always think in terms of quantitative results. That's how the whole business scenario is developed. They're based on stock valuation, and they're based on how much profit you at the end of the period you generate. So these are the issues which we have to imbibe from Pawanji's talk. That would really help us to have a different drishti. That will give us a different drishti, and we will be, I think, rid of what he termed as the illusion of modernity. It's not modernity, but the kind of illusion that is there, the illusion which we are pursuing in the name of modernity, is what needs to be understood. So that brings out a lot of clarity, and that clarity obviously should lead to simplification of the complexity which we see in the society around us, in our own selves, and in every field of human activity. I think that is my takeaway from Pawanji's talk today. And if there are no further questions,
Krishna,
we
Pawanji,
would
sorry
like
to
to.
interrupt.
Yeah, please.
We have one question from Meghna ji.
Yeah, please.
So
Can
she
you read it
says,
out?
yes, I'll read it out. Pavanji, she's asking how to understand two conflicting things which are happening together in the modern society. One, it is trendy to raise your voice towards so-called injustices, and at the same time, aggressive expectations to be politically correct. How can we understand the two opposing behaviors, which are both encouraged in modernity? What is this doing to common psyche?
You have to unmute yourself, Pawan.
For this thing, voice for justice, and the second one was in the modern world. What is the second trait?
So the second one says aggressive expectations to be politically correct.
Politically correct. Yeah. Now, Meghna ji, we need to make here a distinction between the modern idea of justice and the Sanatan reality of Nyaya. Nyaya and justice, we have equated, like we have equated many words in English. We have imposed the English meaning by doing these kind of translations. We have imposed the English meaning onto our meanings. So, for instance, religion has got imposed onto dharma. Dharma is very different, we all know. But in the common parlance, dharma has become religion, not religion has not become dharma. This is the same thing. The modern idea of justice is very different from nyaya. This brings me to there was one of my gurus was Nagarajji Sharma, used to live, is a great sage, used to live in Amarkantak. Venkat Chalayya ji, the former Chief Justice of India, he used to come to him once in a while. And once Nagarajji asked Venkat Chalayya ji that everyone calls you Nyaya Murti. Can you tell me what Nyaya is? And you know what Venkat Chalayya's answer was? He said, Nagarajji, I don't know Nyaya. हम तो फैसला करते हैं. हम फैसला करते हैं. फैसला किस पे करते हैं? Something called the constitution, जिसको हम इंटरप्रेट करके फैसला करते हैं. उसको हम जस्टिस बोलते हैं. न्याय is something I don't know. तो न्याय जो होता है वो तो अभी हमारे एजुकेशन में कहीं उसकी बात ही नहीं होती है. हमारे मॉडर्न पार्लेंस में बात नहीं होती है न्याय की. हम यूज करते हैं, वी यूज द वर्ड न्याय, बट न्याय इज बेस्ड ऑन सनातन. Nyaya is not based on a book. Justice is based on a book and the interpretation of that book, and that interpretation can differ from person to person. That is why the same book, but a different bench comes and gives a different decision, and another bench comes and gives a different decision. Even the people sitting on the same bench give differing views because they are interpreting the book differently. So that is one. So let's not confuse between Nyaya. Nyaya is based on truth, not on a book. And Nyaya can be, when the Nyaya is done, then everyone, without fail, when they will know that this is Nyaya. It is not one against the other. Nyaya is based on truth. Number one. This political correctness is the biggest weapon of modern times. This is a kind of a terrorism. Everyone has been terrorized into being politically correct. If you are not politically correct, then you are ostracized, then you will not be successful in certain fields. You are forced because you want to say, I have arrived. And to have arrived, you need to be fashionable. Fashion doesn't, as I said earlier, fashion is not just in clothes and style. Fashion is also in ideas and opinions. That is what you can see it. If you just look around you, the certain ideas when you propagate, then you are termed as, yes, this person knows, and this is what is fashionable. So there is an unsaid pressure. The pressure is exactly the same as, let's say, if I were wearing, I had a scalpel lock, हमारे पास छोटी होती, मैं धोती कुर्ता पहना हुआ होता और माथे पे बहुत तिलक होता, and if I went to a fancy party in Delhi, I would be out of place. And if I were not very strong internally, which most of us are not, then I would feel a certain pressure on me that I should be behaving and dressing differently over here to belong. The same thing is there with political correctness. If you say today that I don't believe in modern democracy, or if you say this equality is a sham, you will be hounded. This is the power of political correctness. And where does it come from? I believe it comes from the way we are being educated, where we are being trained into believing that rope is a snake. So we are not calling out the bluff of it all. That is what I'm saying. You can talk about tradition. You can talk about traditional education, but don't forget you're living in Kali Yuga also. Traditional education has been coming out from generations, from maybe not, if not Satyug, definitely from Treta and Dwapar and all that. Today you are living in Kalyug, and Kalyug ka apna ek dharm hai. In this Kalyug, you are surrounded, your eyes have been, blinded with modernity. You are not able to see. This is what Maya is all about. So we have to work towards, मैं इसको कहता हूं भ्रम मुक्ति और मोह भंग. ये इल्यूजन से बाहर आना पड़ेगा मॉडर्निटी के, जिसमें आपको दिखाई देगा कि दिस डेमोक्रेसी इज अ शैम. Modern idea of democracy, not democracy as such. We have had democracy in India for I don't know how long, but that was not this kind of democracy. Now this is the kind of democracy which has been imposed on us, saying that this is the only form of democracy. This is not the only form of democracy. This party politics is not the only form of democracy. Anyway, I'm not getting into that, but I'm saying we have been indoctrinated into believing that these are the modern values. Basically, they stem from these four things: modern democracy, modern idea of freedom, modern idea of right, modern idea of equality. If we can cut this illusion, if we can see through this sham, that will be a major step forward. The other step would be that we all are, the problem today is all of us are victims and perpetrators at the same time. It is not either or. We who are talking about this, we are looking at this disease, are victims definitely, but we are also perpetrators because we have gotten so used. I am used to many, many things, so many conveniences around me. My body has got used to it. Even though I know that this is not really right, but now what do? I am both a victim and a perpetrator. How can I tell my son that this is not correct when I'm doing it? I don't have the moral courage to do it. So this puts us in a bind. I agree. You may feel, then what do we do? It's almost like a paralytic state. No, it is not. There is still a way out, maybe a small little glimpse, but let us begin with that. Let's not ignore the problem. Let us come out of this Mayajal by breaking this myth of modernity and slowly understanding that this is just an illusion. और कुछ नहीं है. This whole thing, this today's success is defined by what others will tell me about me, based on comparison. Can I have my own yardstick where I decide what is success for me? And I think there is a way out there. That requires a bigger discourse, but not.
It's a wonderful. You have given a very wonderful insight. I think we should thank Meghnaji for putting that question, and we have been able to elaborate on it by actually hitting the nail on its head. So I think that's wonderful, Pawanji. So thank you to you.
Thank you, everyone.
Reshmi, shall we
Yes.
close the session?
Yes, I would like to thank Pawanji once again. Thank you. And to all the participants for your valuable presence this evening. At Rtambhara, we look forward to your presence on Select Fridays, where we bring to you interesting topics on holistic wellness and the arts, delivered by a host of distinguished, knowledgeable speakers. The upcoming program details will be posted on our WhatsApp groups and social media platforms.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Pawanji.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ritika ji. Thank you, everyone.